Out of me. Yes, yes. Peace, 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 peace. Okay. Just trying to. That's probably why. Okay. That's probably why. Because it's. Yeah. Peace. Saladin. Peace, guy. Let me share this link on my social media really quick before we get officially started. I'm having like a little frustrated because one of the things I wanted to share, I am not able to because the moment that I could do the research for it, I could not pull this book up. I don't know why. And makes no sense. Let me see if I can find it. What I will tell you is the reason why I have this particular book. I won't tell you the book because I want to talk about the book. I don't want people to just check for the book just because I said so. That doesn't mean that it's good. You know what I'm saying? I would like to share with you the reasoning. In this particular author, I have 72 books of his. And I don't know why that one didn't show up. Why it refuses to show up. Let's see if I can upload it again to my Google. Oh man, all these people are here. I could have just sat home in my bed. It was horrible weather. But I I did that last week. So what the hell? You know, it's been quiet for me. This today was a very New York moments in Harlem. Harlem doesn't give a shit anymore. New York doesn't give a shit anymore. I already hear everybody cursing, not giving a damn, pissed off, fighting. You know what I mean? And I'm just soaking it up. You know what I mean? Because I soak up the negativity, though. It's like write lyrics and poems and all types of stuff of negativity. It's having that conversation with Napoleon, the legend, the great MC. He had a line that was about negativity and how the arts, you know, they really come out of those negativity, you know, and, you know, with it, we deal with this knowledge. We have very, we would like to think that we'd be just as amazing and incredible, even in times of peace, though. So, you know, it gets you to think. Because most of the arts that we ever engage in, though, they have much hell in them. And that goes for me, too. Guys are yelling in the streets and stuff, and you know what songs in my head? Well, I'm seeing all types of like verbal violence and near confrontations and stuff. I'm in my head. I've got Dionne Warwick's Friends in my head. That's what Friends are for, is on loop. You know what I mean? It's still hilarious. Hilarious. That's what's in my head. All right, we got a lot of brothers. All right, 793rd. All right. I Eternal Sun, Wise You, Infinite Mind. Yo, Infinite Mind, I'm gonna text you something. I was saving it because I actually was working on a verse, a poem, you know, whatever the hell it is that I do on a song now that people want. Yeah, just talking poetic prose on verse, you know. I go, you know, sometimes they rhyme, sometimes they don't, but they always make my point. But I wasn't able to text you this, Infinite Mind, because I was focused on doing that help working on that particular song for the brother. Well, I'll leave unnamed. It's his song, and he'll let people know when it's finished. And there's somebody else that might be on it. So, but I'm gonna text you that now. You know, the whole information, because I have it on draft. I have it on draft, Infinite Mind. You know, I'll send you that now. But serious mathematics piece, God. Alberto Alamo. Jarrell, all right, peace. The classic quartet, right? I know you're talking about, yeah. It was Dionne Warwick, Gladys was on it, Stevie, and yeah, I was about to, Elton John. I was about to say John Elway. I would have liked the song better if John Elway was singing on it, right? Or just throwing a ball in the video, because you didn't really need anybody else. Elton John almost ruins the song, though. But the song ends up being too good. You can't mess it up. You know what I mean? It's like this garbage bag here that looks completely aesthetically disgusting. Hopefully it doesn't ruin the class session tonight, because try to get it out of the way. There we go. Maybe I may have done it. Watch it sag right back all on top of me. You know what I mean? I'm trying to have these for posterity. So we had the school looking, you know, really beautiful. You know what I mean? But all right, so let me just see if that book. Yeah, maybe I never had it in there, but I'll save that for next week, because it's very important philosopher, and I think this too. While I'm thinking about certain books to highlight for you all, if you all are in my classroom, it's also important that I highlight books that are important to me. Just like when you teach other people, these books might not be as essential, but to every person, guaranteed. You might not be able to guarantee that they'll be as essential, but because you're teaching them, especially this knowledge of self, you want to have them have this awareness of your pedagogy. So they actively know that they're not being led astray. Now that's almost impossible for you as the teacher to the student, but because you know, a bad teacher will be a bad teacher. But the truth is, if you have that mindset, a fiendish teacher does that. He still would have prepared that student from learning with someone else, because it's also pedagogy that I'm trying to teach you. In other words, how you were learning. I want you to remember how you were learning, the way that you were learning, the things that you thought, you know, like the wrong things that you thought. You know, we don't always remember that, and we shouldn't, you know, you shouldn't have to remember that at the expense of understanding that you have. But if you intend to be a poor righteous teacher and have that label technically, like, on some really technical stuff, right? Because not everybody is going to be a teacher. I've seen too many gods. And I don't say this because it's ego, right? Because I'm here teaching and I'm, I can't front, I'm successful. I see people teaching and they're horrible teachers because most of the time it's really just one thing, because this is an ego-based learning now, yeah, what was it? Ego, yeah, it's E.B.L, like people take E.S.L. This most of the classes at the nation when you deal with gods and earths are really E.B.L, ego-based learning, you know what I'm saying? So if that's not your first language, you're in trouble, you know what I mean? Because most of the teachings are really to awaken ego. Like, you're the true and living God. Here are some of the sciences to it. You should think you're the best no matter what, and you should turn out there and just do whatever you feel like doing. But do it good because, we're righteous, you know what I mean? That E.B.L teachings, you know what I mean? People are horrible teachers because what happens is when they teach with the E.B.L standard, I made that up though. I got to write that down. Can you give me a minute to write that down? E.B.L. I'm here every Thursday, at the Law School Laugh Factory, right? Jokes are half price before 9 o'clock. But the thing is, right, when you start, most people that teach, they usually are constructing, everybody that learns this knowledge is constructing their understanding. Remember that's the exercise that we mainly do. We construct our understanding. So case in point, right? When we build on today's mathematics, wisdom born, right? Or any day, it doesn't matter, right? When we build on today's mathematics, we're dealing with the way we see things, right? So it puts ourselves in the forefront. So it's very, very susceptible to ego. You know what I mean? And a lot of times, though, that approach becomes like we're all in E.B.L classes, though, ego-based learning. So now when you go to a parliament or you go anywhere else, you go anywhere else, what happens is that at the parliament builds or in the street, when you encounter people on the street especially, and they need to introduce themselves, what they're about and everything, you end up hearing things about what's their insight to a particular issue, or what's their most pressing issue, and it should be your pressing issue. And that's just never really the case, you know what I mean? It usually is that we all have the same type of issues and stuff. We all have similar issues, you know what I mean? So, it would relate. So, great, great news, Infinite Mind, thank you. But so the thing is that how do we get out of this ego-based learning and stuff? And I think one of the ways is that when you start to teach people, you have to try to have some way to catalog the way you were wrong about things or the misconceptions, because the way you were wrong about things are the ways that you came out of it. That's the teaching. You see, the truth isn't the only teaching. The truth isn't the only teaching. There's a whole road. The teaching is a road. The pedagogy is a road. So you have the error, and then you have the road out of the error. And what are those things that you did? The teachers that we're looking for are basically trying to not just hold people's hands through that road. That's what we say all the time. Like, you got to get your own understanding. You have to show and prove it for yourself. So what happens when you don't know how to teach that road of ignorance, out of ignorance, the road out of ignorance? If you don't know how to teach that road, then you can't teach it. If you can't remember it, right? If you can't remember it, then that's a problem too, right? And a lot of times I think we don't give ourselves a chance to be a good teacher because we don't remember, and that is fine. You may not always remember, so then you go. If people learn a lot from me quickly, especially after all these years, it's literally because of after all these years. I've been teaching. If you ask students that I've had early on, like Infinite Mind and stuff, obviously they can attest that I knew how to teach. I just knew how to teach because I always was aware of that road. The thing is that that particular road gets more distant as you have this knowledge longer. You know what I'm saying? So what would I do after all these years to remember that road and stuff like that? You know what I mean? Do we all become, we all become, rappers and stuff, and we start just, you know, just rap about the crime days. You know what I mean? So we always remember the tough times. You know what I mean? And give the same stories again and again. Um, no, no, don't do that. Don't do that. But the truth is that's important. You know what I mean? So when I give out, when I decided, like, when I talk about certain books, I also want to share books that are important to me and made me think about the nature. And a lot of the books that I give out and stuff like that, they're martially inclined, right? Um, because the way a lot of us learned it, right? And I mentioned in the God Infinite Mind, we learned it at the same time that we were just learning martial arts. So the way we learn this knowledge of self and our understanding, we were also learning how to express it physically. And so if we learned about what it takes to uphold this knowledge of self, then we also learn what it takes, though, to actually live it out as far as a physical regimen of discipline, all of these kind of things. And in the martial aspect, everyone here is learning it, even if they don't do martial arts, right? If they don't do so-called, if they don't do any kind of martial arts, though, which is basically, really it's a requisite, not a prerequisite, but a prerequisite. It's not a prerequisite because you don't have to know it before you get this with me, but it's certainly a requisite to me. You know what I mean? You got to get some martial training, if not in the grand scheme of martial arts of kung fu or Chinese kung fu or any of the disciplines, some type of boxing, some type of fighting, and something. But when you learn how to fast, when you learn how to fast and you learn that discipline, when you learn the discipline of fasting, it isn't, the truth is, no matter what, right? After a certain time, we can't really be with the students, so we can't really prove that they fasted. So the reality of it is really, we test you in different ways. What is the strength of the works? You know what I'm saying? What is the strength of the preparation of the works? You know what I mean? Right? How do they work? How hard is he working? If he doesn't have any works that he works on, how hard does he work to prepare something that might be something? Many of you may not know what you're creatively gifted at. And I'm not saying as a profession only. I'm saying as, like, and I don't want to use the word hobby. I'd rather use the word lifestyle. You know what I'm saying? Because I still haven't come out in a movie or anything like that. You know what I mean? Until my twin brother comes out in a martial arts movie, because he sucks, right? Right, Infinite. He sucks. So he comes out in the martial arts movie. I'll shave all my facial hair off, and I get to be in a kung fu movie. You know what I'm saying? But until then, I ain't really. You know what I'm saying? But certainly, it's a lifestyle. It's not a hobby because it's not a thing I do when I feel like being happy. It's a thing I do regardless of whether I enjoy it or not. You know what I mean? Today, like, for example, today was my sprint day, and it rained all day. And I trained. I did my training at home. I did my strength training at home, and I have to take it's a mile jog to where I do hill sprints, and the old 180 moves out there at the top of the hill. Um, so that takes a bit of a time. So man, I was soaked, man. Like I was heavier when I got back. I was soaked. You know what I mean? And it feels great after you finish it. I didn't like it. You know what I'm saying? I didn't like it. You know what I mean? But now when I train next though, when it's not rating, it'll be that much easier. You know what I mean? And that's the point of the fasting and stuff, right? So you have that martial discipline though, right? So that you don't have to eat just because. Um, so you can make a better decision. You know what I mean? Yeah, these are all the things. Let me look at some of these comments. I know Infinite Mind laughed because you know what I said is true. I love a twin though. It wasn't his thing. You know what I mean? Saladin, you said I'm reading a book by James Morris Webb. It's about original characters in the Bible. It sounds like a cartoon. It's really interesting. I had that 1 in 10. Interesting, interesting. Do you have that book, or am I to search for this book? I just did a search on that author. He has a book called The Black Man, the Father of Civilization, proven by biblical history. That sounds pretty interesting. Sounds pretty interesting. Here's what's interesting with this. It seems that I'm gonna share this link because if you have this seems like an interesting book just for the title. So here's what I'm gonna do. Saladin, good work. Even if the book sucks, the title is too intriguing not to check. But the book is actually available on Kindle for free. So if you have your Kindle though, you can just get the book for free. So I definitely will get that book later. If not, like right now with a couple of clicks. Is that the book that you were talking about, or did I just find another book that he wrote, or a totally different? I just put the author's name, James Morris Webb, in there. Yeah, so I literally just bought the book now. There we go. There we go. And of course I bought it because it was $0. All right, it's free book, so definitely. Yeah, you don't always get that. I was telling one of the guys that one of the students that it's not. It sounds funny because I'm telling him this whole thing about the Nas degree is not something, or really anything on 120. The whole reason 120 is difficult for people is because you don't have a book that says, listen, the book on Yaqub and all the answers for it. There's no answer book. And then here comes Saladin with a book that is titled Black Man, Father of Civilization, proven by biblical history. You know what I mean? Infinite Al-Jabbar would be so tight right now. Like, just put all the answers in a book that he spent the whole time reading the whole Bible. But Smells Good said, Peace, the owner of the gym made the wise choice of cutting the heat on here. Everybody's sweating in this blicky. Oh, man, that's too bad. That's too bad. That's too bad. You know what I mean? But Smells Good. Hopefully it's the name is appropriate and your your warm smells and scents can save the day. Saladin said, Peace, how can you take your ego out and just teach humbly? It always feels as if I'm fighting with people verbally. Yeah, yeah. When you're alone though, you always should think about what you don't know. You see? And when you go outside, you have to keep telling yourselves that it's okay that no one ever understands this knowledge of self. If you don't go out there with that, then you're always going to be pressed to try to prove it. The worth, and also the worth of you as a teacher. Sometimes that happens because you're trying to prove, um, you're trying to prove everything that you're saying. You know what I mean? And you're trying to be right and exact and all this kind of stuff, and it just becomes more and more and more and more difficult. You know. Let's see here. Yeah, teaching humbly is not really about getting what you know to the person. It's really about trying to figure out, you're learning something first, and that's the key to the humility. You are trying to learn what it is that they think they know, what they refuse to absolutely know, and what it is that they might take from you. And with that said, they might not take anything, so then it's okay, so you can let it go. You know what I mean? Infinite Mind said, pedagogy is the what and how to teach, the science balanced with the art, the methodology with the expression. Indeed, the 1 and 2 word. That's what I learned at the Peace course when I got knowledge of self-destruction. Yeah, much more than a writing course. That's right. That's right. Okay, all right. That's Peace. I think we did get the right book. Yeah. So, if you have an account with Amazon, if you have a Kindle and stuff, or you don't have to have a Kindle. You can get the Kindle free app and just sign in, and you can get this book for free. That's awesome. You know what I mean? If you went OD, look at the suggestions they give you: Bible history of the Negro, the Color of Solomon, the Ancient Black Hebrews, History of the Black Man. These are all other books that they show in the suggestions, and each one of these books is $1 on Kindle. So even if you wanted to just check it out to see if it's worthy or something like that, you can always gamble and do that. There's a book here I see. I might try to get The True History of Chocolate. By the way, I love reading history books about very expected things. You know what I'm saying? Like things that are obvious, like the history of salt and things like that. One of the best books I read, The 6 Drinks That Changed the World. And I forgot the 6th drink. Let me see, look it up real quick. Six drinks. Yeah, The 6 Drinks That Changed the World. Yeah, that's not actually the title, and that's why I didn't find it. A History of the World in 6 Drinks. Beer, wine, spirits, basically any kind of really alcohols, things that you make, like, rum and things like that, things that are spirits. Beer, wine, spirits, coffee, tea, and Coca-Cola. Sometimes that simplified angle of history you can really learn a lot, and they become very intriguing reads. Yeah. So so good find, Saladin. That's what you got to be doing, though. That's how I amassed this massive book collection, just searching and looking for things. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I was saying all that to really say that, like, all of the assignments that I give are really trying to get you also to a clue of how I am teaching you, the way that I'm teaching you, the way I'm sharing with you. And even when I suggest certain books, I'm trying to give them to you so you could see the way that I come about learning. Because like I said, Because we learn the martial arts, many of the martial philosophies about the way of life, because here we are, right? We're the gods, right? We have the knowledge of self. Not only do we have the knowledge of self, the knowledge of self is also telling us that we are the creators of the universe. So we have that knowledge, but we actually are that knowledge. Then the third thing is that we also have the physical attributes, though, to take over. So we have the mental and the physical acumen, and we're training it all at the same time. It's a lot of power. So what happens is that we start to study the philosophies of men in ancient times, specifically the Chinese philosophies, and we start learning, right, is that these men, even if they all didn't come to the conclusions that man is God, even though much of the Taoist literature and much of the Zen Buddhist literature comes very close, really right there. What happens is that we start to see, how do men behave themselves with such great power? How do men behave themselves with the ability to kill and hurt at a moment's notice? And we start to defy the conception of power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely. And it's a mastery of the power degree to what? Born equality, because our culture is filled with the tools of mental and physical, understanding that is at a supreme level. So now when we live out that culture, though, how does that power is able to focus into a what? Equality that is helpful and not egotistical. So this is why the philosophical texts are became so crucial in a lot of the studies that I had and just the personal way of life. So that's why I give it to you. And a lot of the philosophers I give you, either from the modern era, like like the last 100 years, and even behind into the ancient times, they've all come to these conclusions and stuff. Just like the basics that are on the beginner book list, like Morier Shiba's The Art of Peace, though. He's a perfect example, Yeah, simplified, right? The creator creates creation, and if you're not, what the hell are you doing? Right? You should be like Nathan Holgren and be yelling out, what the hell am I doing here? Right? Because what are you doing on this planet, though, with all this power and doing jack shit, right? But yeah. Okay, 750. All right. Let me open up some of the potential things that I could share here. Where is this book? Yeah, definitely. One of the things that I'm definitely going to change in my beginner book list is definitely adding Neil deGrasse Tyson's Astrophysics for People in a Hurry. It's just written too well. It's so good as a beginner book to get people into the concepts of cosmology, the study of the origins of the universe, to get them comfortable with, astrological terms, the connections, the insights that are drawn from the studies of astrology and everything from NASA and everything like that, so easily read, the all of the forces of the universe, the concepts of dark matter and dark energy, how those became proposed, How are they? How is something that you cannot find yet? How do you know it's there? Like all of that, well explained in the books, in that particular book. So it's a perfect beginner book on that level to go with the others that I had there. You know what's funny? It doesn't talk about the sun particularly like that much, that I remember, but it probably does. You know, right? I was going over it recently on notes that I took, but I didn't take any notes um, particularly about that. So I didn't tag any pages that were about that particularly. So okay, so that's that book there. Right. A lot of the book is based on the formation of the universe itself. So of course, though, it has yeah. Now that I'm looking through it, though, real quick, it does have certainly about the formation of the sun and stuff. So very again, it's pretty complete, and the book is only 116 pages. So um, it's exceptional how he's able to put that in such a small amount of space. That's why I like Brief History of Time by Stephen Hawking is a great book, and he worked that over again into Briefer History of Time. Both really good. You know what I mean? And if you don't have that book, I'll just just email me. Just email me or remind me to get it to you. So that way, when I see the email, I can just send it out to you and stuff. Okay. Okay. Saladin said, "Peace. My uncle's a martial artist. Sunez. He was not trying to hear writing could be considered a martial art." His reply, "Yeah, maybe. He'd rather just kick somebody in the gonads and grunt." That's because he's not a good writer. So people that say that aren't, I'm a good writer though, so I know it is. Right? Um, what did Bruce Lee say about martial arts though? Because anybody that you know isn't going to be on the level of Bruce Lee, right? He said that martial arts was the science of expressing oneself, right? Physically. The truth is that when you write, you're expressing yourself physically, how you express yourself, okay? And these are confirmed by martial artists that wrote, like Moria Yoshiba, right? Probably the only other martial artist that might rival Bruce Lee in the 20th century. Um, trying to think of his name though. I remember his name, but I can't say it because I'm going to butcher it. Miyamoto Musashi, right? He thought writing was important too, that he had to express himself and express those ideas about the martial arts that he learned, right? As a samurai, you know what I mean? Um, if you don't have, if you say that writing is not part of the martial art, then what you're also saying is that the expressive word isn't. What you're also saying is that the philosophy of you as a fighter has no philosophy, and there is no mentality to actually describe. So that means that you just fight things and you just do, like, thing happen, punch come, I punch, and that's not really martial arts. That's not really martial arts. That's just nigga fighting. Anybody could do that shit. You know what I mean? Anybody could learn how to do kicks and all kind of stuff. All of that. I don't mean shit. You know what I mean? It really don't mean shit. If you kick somebody, it is not martial arts. Okay? If you punch someone, it is not martial arts. When soldiers come back to war, you don't call them martial artists, right? They may have killed, a truckload of men, right? We don't call them martial artists, right? When we see a serial killer, we don't call them martial artists, right? Even if they killed many people. Okay. So it's not the physicality of it that makes it martial art. Okay. So if you train a certain amount of moves, then you're getting it confused. There's a philosophy to it, there's a mentality to it, right? There is a health aspect of it, right? There is a way of gauging the intensity by which you react, the intensity by which you prepare to react, right? The lifestyle of being on call, right? Because that actually has a philosophy that has differing philosophies. Whether you're compared to from a Japanese samurai to a Chinese martial artist doing kung fu in a Shaolin monastery, right? Yeah, so it definitely is. And the reason I'm saying that though is because when we talk about writing too, you might be thinking about like typing and things like that, but writing was actually a skill. And if we look at the languages where martial arts, were flowering in, right? We look to the Chinese, and we look to China and ancient China. That also came with the style of the weaponry. So with the way that they wrote, and these characters also depended on the person's style of writing, they also exposed their style of moving. So it exposed their aggression, it exposed all of these things. Okay. And just like if you're a really good martial artist, though, the way someone moves and does other things, you can tell that they do martial arts. You know what I mean? Right? And how well. Morie Ishibe, yes, yeah, he founded Aikido, right? The stuff that and check him out. So that way that your lasting memory of Aikido isn't Steven Seagal. Right? I don't want that to happen. Right? That wouldn't be the way. Let me get his name because I can never. Okay, I'm just writing something. I do want to get into something else now. So anybody has questions or throws in some bills on today's mathematics, right? Today's mathematics is what and means what? I'm clicking, over clicking here. So it's interesting that as we come closer to voting, I haven't heard anyone asking about voting and stuff. I'm very curious if people are voting here, right? If they are they bitter and want Trump to win and just want all chaos and think that fascism won't happen, or are deathly afraid of the evils of the status quo. You know, I think a lot of militants and revolutionaries, they seem to be more scared of status quo than massive chaos, you know? And to think, I don't think that you're much of a revolutionary if the revolution that you're trying to spark needs them to cause chaos, you know, which means destruction. You want a revolution because to be helped along by them causing more destruction. You know what I mean? So further it along. So you favor the anarchist manners and all these kind of things and stuff. You know what I mean? It wasn't what the father was about. You know? And that's another thing about teaching too, right? You know, you look at for those that know it though, right? For those that know it, why was Yaqub so successful in all his undertakings, right? Because the people who follows Yaqub's laws, regardless to what he told them to do, right? They did it. If not, they pay with their lives for every law that they broke. I don't concern myself with the last part all the time first. I still get stuck with the whole idea that, you know, regardless to what he told them to do, they did it. You know what I mean? This I find intriguing. So people were dissatisfied enough, right? That something else happened, you see? They're dissatisfied. But, you know, just like a teacher is an instructor that takes you on a path. So just like Yaqub, he knows the way to this path. He knows the way from here to here. So he knows this path, right? Because he played with the two pieces of steel. He knows the unalike that he's going to make. How the hell did he get them to follow everything he said just by their mere dissatisfaction? Our people are dissatisfied all the time. If we wanted to be technical, we could always say, no, they're not. They're just discontent or whatever it is like that. Or they are content. They are not dissatisfied. I don't know. It's hard to gauge. It is very hard to gauge that concept, right? Are the people dissatisfied, discontent, or are they content? And this is why I say that the 85 is mainly based on, you know, however the wind blows. You know what I mean? Like the Syl Johnson song. Any way the wind blows, it's cool with me, right? If you know your Wu-Tang RZA samples, you know Syl Johnson. But the 85 to me are marked by inconsistency. The populace is not as consistent as you think. They fluctuate and they flutter, right? If they didn't, then you wouldn't need to have different, such drastic policy changes, things of that nature. You know what I mean? You could, you know what I mean? You could rule with just one style, and that doesn't always work, right? That doesn't always work. Look at these guys. I'm leaning back, and I can't say a damn thing, right? Knowledge Allah said, I'm assuming the A is Allah, right? Knowledge Allah. Can that be the same as blind following? Yeah, it could be an assumption, right? Could it be possible that we are assuming that Yaqub's followers were blind followers, though? They were dissatisfied. But what does he do that gets them to follow? There were other rules or regulations not mentioned in this lesson. And we could chalk it up to that. Crap. Damn it. Right? How are we going to find that out? Or what? What could we do? What could we do? We could look at the mentality of a people and what they needed and how they were going to get there, right? We could study other civilizations that have discontent people and people brought to a drastic change, though. This is why sometimes, like studying certain rulers and stuff, whether they be my man Genghis Khan or devils like Hitler, you know what I'm saying, who is Yaqub light, right? Yaqub, right? Watered down Yaqub, right? Yaqub on the rocks. Um, you really could learn a lot from studying people like that because those societies are very similar. You see, that's why these terms like fascism are very, very important to study in these concepts because people are willing to change an entire government, or be led to an entire government change. No one is, no one is really comfortable with that much change so rapidly. So there has to be a level of comfort. You have to give them a level of comfort. Like this is a process that we can do. We can get you through these things. You see, right? Very intriguing. You know, very intriguing. You know. One thing though, I'll say though, I don't, and maybe this is a homework assignment, but you've never seen a rule, I was gonna say ruler, but I'm not far off of saying it. But in the modern world, a president that has been so blatantly like not very intelligent at all. You know what I mean? Like for the first world countries, right? Donald Trump is very, very, very much like he reminds me a lot like Latin American dictators, you know what I mean? Or the governors of Puerto Rico throughout the years that were assigned once America took over. You know what I mean? The guys that went in there not really to govern, but to get their paper off, especially early Puerto Rican history. Once Puerto Rico was taken over as a colony by the US, you know. Let me see if I get this right because I'll show you I forget the guy's name. Okay. That won't do. gotta find this history. I don't know the name of this particular individual. Let me see if I could find it. Okay. This might take me a minute or two. Please throw in your builds on the day's math, man. I want to hear something. I want to hear something. Seriously. Okay, now, yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna have to save this for next class because I can't find the point that I'm trying to make here, which sucks. It really sucks because I can't remember the book that I had studied this from. It's really not anything but like a basic book. Yeah, but basically bumbling. But when you look at the ideas of following and stuff like that, following doesn't always mean ignorance. Though following means that okay, when you follow someone, right, it doesn't always mean ignorance 100%. That's why I always say blind following. Following could also mean that you've entrusted them because they are a best knower. Um, so it is very possible that Yakub showed that he was the best knower. You know what I mean? And so they were willing to follow him. And people were willing. Remember, it's people willing to actually enforce the law. So there's people enforcing the law. So he was able to found it with a system of government, governing rules. So that way, like when things happen, he just lock them up. And that doesn't mean that they were like, some people read the degree, right? They pay with their lives for low. Yakub did not build prison house to prison his people. The penalty was death, right? And was enforced on everyone who fell victim. That doesn't mean that like that Yakub, that society was all like rebellious or anything. That I think that's an assumption that we make when we read that degree, that grafting the white man out of these original people and separating them and everything like that. Remember, they had the mate and everything. It is we are assuming that the society that he made to make this devil was confrontational, was fighting every step of the way. I don't think so. I don't think that is true, and it is certainly at the very least an assumption. Right? Let me quickly write a note to myself about what I wanted to find out and I couldn't. Okay, let me see. I refined my search, man. Maybe I can cheat my way to the answer. The wonders of right, yeah. I found his name. I was on it. I just didn't read it correctly. I don't even know what the hell the point was. Oh, I was talking about Trump and stuff. Like how millionaires, they end up going into politics, and if you get to highest post in certain things, you just use it to blood suck. You know what I mean? When we look at the first U.S. appointed civilian governor of Puerto Rico. Because when the U.S. took over Puerto Rico, they had about five, I think it was 4 or 5, just devil generals and military that were just governors, because it was military occupation. And when they eased into it, though, and they brought civilization more consistently to the people of Puerto Rico, they started to have a civilian. But the first one, Charles Herbert Allen, he basically went in there to basically baron the capital. So even in his Wikipedia, Wikipedia, they be, man, the way whoever writes these Wikipedia things, man, the way that they tenderize uh, westernized devilishment is intriguing. I mean, after returning to the U.S. from Puerto Rico, Charles Herbert Allen, headed for Wall Street and became a vice president of Morton Trust Company and its successor, the Guarantee Trust Company of New York. He formed the American Sugar Refining Company, a sugar syndicate, which by 1907 was the largest in the world. It owned or controlled 98% of the sugar processing capacity in the U.S. and was known as the Sugar Trust. But most of that sugar trust, he collected it while he was governor of Puerto Rico, because most of that sugar trust says here processing 98% of the sugar processing capacity in the U.S. is the most misleading shit I've ever seen, because most of that sugar is what now belongs to the U.S., Puerto Rico. So he basically became governor of Puerto Rico to buy up all of the sugar, the cane land, right? And then headed back to Wall Street. That's what they have to do. After returning to the U.S. from Puerto Rico, he headed to Wall Street. Like, he made a beeline toward Wall Street. Man, Wikipedia, though, like, they will tenderize a devil. You know what I mean? They will make him sound sweet. What a guy. You know what I mean? Look at that. They write, though Allen had a business background, his financial administration of Puerto Rico has been criticized by historians. Thomas Aiken Jr. and Manuel Maldonado Dennis. Yeah, he hustled. And, it's Charles Herbert Allen that reminds me most of Trump. Just make somebody more stupider. You know what I mean? Because that's their goal. They have the same end game. Not to say that he was his acumen to bloodsuck was as good as Charles Herbert Allen. You know what I mean? Yeah, no, so yeah, once they show and prove, so that's why, like, the concept of the best knower is a real thing, right? Once you know who the best know, or you can prove who the best knower is, or you accept that they're the best knower or whatnot, you know what I mean? But it's not always the case, right? All right. All right, I still don't see any bills on the Supreme Math, today's math. So everybody knows you guys are good. Everything you say will be born, and it will absolutely, show and prove that your word is bond. Yeah, I'm glad I thought of that. Now, let's see here. Let me open up. I'm going to open up some materials that I think it's about time I get through to them and build on them with you all. Okay, so like in all these, all of these plus lessons, that they all have a lot of room for improvement. But it's a plus lesson I really ought to get into, because last class, well, we had that the guy that was posing as Allah. Yeah, I definitely was able to use the 7930. But so there is some precedent for what Trump tries to do. There isn't a precedent for someone so bumbling and dumb. You know what I'm saying? Because no one's gonna tell me that they decided to put a virus everywhere and stuff like that. You know what I mean? And no one's gonna tell me that any man would like actually try to lie about having a virus and stuff, and try to pull that off. You know what I mean? Somebody has to be that stupid and have such immense egos. Is that thing, ego, that they would, devalue the people that they serve. It's almost comical that they actually are said to serve these people. All right, I'm going to read through a plus lesson here, right? Let me and it's basically let's call it an addendum to the last week, because last week I got pissed off, and rightfully so, because I have this concept where everything that we build technically can be seen through the children, where every perspective that we make can be seen through the children. That means that it doesn't matter if you make something that isn't for children, like let's say you make hip hop, like I've made hip hop poetry and spoken word songs and all that. It's not necessarily for children. It'll have, some of it will have curses in it, some will be vile. Not me particularly to say, that's not really my thing, but it just doesn't come out that way. I'm more keep it militant. I'm not really into the vile stuff. But if we took everything that we think of and took it through the perspectives of why we would do it, there's always a certain level of judgment in there of whether the decision should be yes or no, is whether it is good for children, in the future of children or in the present reality of children, in the future of children or in the development of children as they become adults. So something is always for the future, for the best part. You know what I mean? And I think that we lie to ourselves if we think that understanding is just a robotic truth of knowledge. The truth is that we are also living out the understanding that we find to be the most valuable. Not every single truth that is true, but what we find to be the most valuable. Think of it this way, right? The father was teaching during the 60s with a lot of militancy and, all that kind of stuff, right? I got distracted here. There's so many things to look at here, to add on, right? The father dealt with all these civil rights groups, black power groups, extremes, moderates, and even people that just wanted to keep things in the way they were, and a little scared, I guess, or whatever it was. The genius of it all is that the perspective that he always had was, he was very equipped to teach militants, you know what I mean? How to fight, how to kill, all those kind of things. And for those of us that do the martial arts, right? Especially like the way that I learned it was very much a part of the culture of this nation. You know what I mean? I learned it particularly because of this nation. You know what I'm saying? So the interesting thing about that, right, is that he easily could have gone all of these lanes. You know, the more militant lane, all of these kind of things would have been in his wheelhouse. He takes a lane that is about the children, and he's able to teach in such a way where the children are dealt with today as far as young adults, right? Because he's not teaching babies, he's teaching like teens up. But the mentality can still be applicable to children that are coming into the future very soon. This is intriguing to me. You know what I mean? And it's part of the genius of what he was doing. This is hard to do. Every single movement for something people deem righteous is seen that it'll be something for the children, but it is not something that they could live right now. It is something that is being done for them for the future. We're going to shoot this up. Obviously, it's not something for children now to be involved with. You know, of course, there's certain, militant regimes in, all over the world, whether they be black, black, brown, or, or even ethnic whites that the half originals that put the youth in there. You know what I mean? But the truth is, they would be in harm's way, right? And those people would know that, and they accept that. But the father was able to make a culture that was about building something for the future, but something that the children could participate right now, right? Very intriguing. Let me read some of these comments here. Right, 1A, duality of potential kinetic. Okay. Energy. All right. Chi, PPP. I don't know what that means. P. Sean P. I miss Sean P. You know what I mean? What a character. There's another genius right there. Miss that brother. Jarrell Boylan. Peace, God. Right? Let me make my build here and introduce hey, Muchi, write that whole shit out though. Peas in the pod, Sean Peas, write that whole shit out, right? Your keyboard don't have EAC, EACE, right? That says peas. It doesn't say peace, right? I don't know who you are. Throw that shit out there, right? In the digital world though, you want to keep the digital world from being so digital. You know what I mean? Never forget how you would be in real life, though, like how you would behave in real life. How would you behave if people were right in front of you? I published for years. I've been publishing works since 1994. And I've been writing things that about people that have people behind them that can enforce. And if they don't like something, they might come check you. This is where I come from writing. You know what I mean? And let me tell you something. I never was one of those writers that anybody dared to contest. But here's why. Because everything that I said, I was willing to say in front of them, though. And there's no offense to what you just wrote there, but I'm saying, like, let's always practice, like, in all interactions, so we can make the digital world valuable. Let's always interact like the way we would interact if we was right there in front of you. Because when I'm building with everyone here, I'm building like I'm talking to the whole world, even though there's far less than the whole world here. You know what I mean? And that type of practice is real because you treat everything you saying right, like you can't take it back. You know, I never tweet something that is on some shit where, like, let me put it and then I'm gonna take it out. I just want this guy to see it and then not take it off. Bitch, that's some bitch shit. You know what I'm saying? Write the shit that you're gonna say and say it, and be willing to say it to the people that are right there. You know what I mean? And if it's something that would lead to a fight or anything like that in real life, then you have to question yourself, why are you sharing this? You know what I mean? Is it for that fight? Is it because this fight is worthwhile? Is it because the exposure and the violence that it will lead to is important? You got to think about these things. You know what I'm saying? Because, you talk sloppy one way, and I mean this rhetorically, not to Moochie at all, but you talk sloppy one way, you'll talk sloppy another way. Always be on point. Always be on point. You know what I mean? And that's something where the martial training is crucial. I was out there, when it gets cold and stuff and you train, I could go up there and be like, nobody's going to know if I did all the sprints, man. All the regular people that walk in the park, they're not there anymore. And they're not, or in the fort where I train, nobody will see me. I could let that go. I could do it. You know what I mean? Right? But only God is watching. That's me. Me. I'm the only one that sees it. And so it's even more crucial that I do it, though. Right? The wisdom that you undertake must be born. Okay? Every time your wisdom is born, that's what? Knowledge. Right? That means that what you had here, that idea you had here, is now out here. Knowledge. You know what I mean? Wisdom born. You got to be able to put it out there. And put it out there the way you always would be. You know what I mean? Right? You need that practice. If you're all students here, you need that practice. But let me take a moment here to read the bills, because then I'll go into the plus lesson. But the plus lesson is based on that concept of always working to see the relevance of any understanding we have to the children. Jarrell said, today's math is wisdom born, all being born to wisdom. I see this as the way I express what is known being brought into existence. Okay? Which in turn influences the actions of the ciphers. Okay, ciphers with an I, right? Dealing, right? We want to do hip hop shit, you spell ciphers with a Y. We're talking mathematics here, you spell it with an I, because mathematics spells that shit with an I, right? The way the word is spelled, right? This can be best exemplified in how I might respond to somebody asking what neighborhood I'm from. When I'm responding peacefully, they don't bang a peaceful solution is usually carried out. Okay. All right. Eternal Son Allah said, wisdom born, all being born of wisdom through the knowledge made known via one's wisdom, wise words and deeds. Okay. All peace, Terrell. I'm being a stickler here. I'm a pain in the ass. Sunez Allah said, that's important how you act at all times with everyone or no one around. When you take wisdom through math, your born self, that lets you know it ain't no half stepping and bullshit. The more you practice having your word as bond to yourself, the more easily it is to discern whether you could give your word to others. Nearly every time, what you if you see it happen and I'm around, it'll be internal. But every time somebody says, yeah, I never give out my word as bond, that's crazy and this and that. I hate that shit when people are scared to give word as bond. You know what I mean? Like, what do you, why are you scared? You know what I mean? What's the worst that could happen though? You gave it all you have and you couldn't. You know what I mean? I give my word as bond. I'll be here all the time, right? And sometimes I don't make it here. Just like last week, I didn't make it physically in here, right? Shit happens, right? But I gave it all I have and all within my power, right? You got to have some fails. if you people say that, that also means they don't do it to themselves either. They don't have to give their word as bond to nothing. You know, I'm gonna memorize a sheet, 20 sheets of paper. I get a flag based on the memorization of 20 sheet of paper, and that's it. I don't do any of the shit that's in it though. It's weak. You get disgusted. You know what I'm saying? All right. So anyway, that preface though isn't exactly what this plus lesson is about, right? And for those that are actually here and listening to it, though, I will send it to you if you email me. If you could see, when you see it, you'll see I wrote this in 2011. If I write an updated one, they will not be an updated one of this one. This will be as is. It'll just write like a volume 2. So this is Understanding Volume 1, the transition from work, wisdom, to insight, understanding. So I'm looking at, in this case, I'm looking at wisdom as work, right? And it's funny because I tend to look at wisdom as work also too, like in the love hella right. You know what I mean? We look at love hella right. It still would be 2 because it'd be, let's say, you're born knowledge and wisdom, born understanding, right? The 12th letter, knowledge and wisdom, born understanding. So knowledge, wisdom, understanding, and love hell, right? I've always seen as the love as the mentality that you bring into it, the goal, right? And then the hell is the work that you create because you're not being put in hell. You know what I'm saying? So you have to go through this hell and shit like that. You know what I mean? Like if you really start studying history, like for example, like the buffoonery, the buffoon style fascism that we are living under with Trump is the most American shit I've ever seen. You know what I mean? The most American shit I've ever seen. You know? And by the way, as a side note, because like I said, you all know that my work is as a hip hop writer, journalist, historian, because I've been doing it long enough. Rap, especially pop rap, the rap world, and even hip hop, what we consider real, living out the principles sincerely, they all, one side, the pop side, venerated and loved Trump. The more hip hop principled side still looked at Trump as someone who had the powers that they wanted. You know, the power to play with money. Because, you know, Trump is kind of like his life before the presidency is kind of like a broke ass Bruce Wayne. He doesn't turn into Batman, doesn't save shit, but Batman would often live out a Bruce Wayne that is more of a player and everything, so people wouldn't realize that he's really got this great acumen and shit like that, right? But he didn't have that acumen. Trump doesn't have that acumen, so he's living out that player lifestyles, and pimping and shit, and just balling. Really not pimping, balling, just because. The generation that we come from, that I'm from, really looked at him in an endearing way and dismissed his devilishment by saying he was one of those that were honest. And I've been saying this since the 90s that peace, God.
How you doing?
Everything's peace, God. That say again, God.
Nobody there with you?
Oh yeah, just me,
Okay.
just me and all these digital folk. Oh yeah, no doubt. But yeah, like the reality is, when I'm talking about this aspect about it, there's a false principle that we live under, and it's this idea of over appreciating honesty, and it keeps happening with Trump, especially with black folk. You know what I mean? So-called African American, and our people too. You know, whether you're Puerto Rican, you know, all the original people that have been in America long enough, you know what I mean? And are Americanized, you know what I'm saying? And believe that capitalism is a shot that they can shoot, you know what I mean? Because that's pretty much everybody, you know? And we listen to artists that keep up the principles, whether they be like a Rock Marciano and others though, and they are, you know, they speak honestly about things that they do that aren't so morally there, but they're the fiendish means, and they're being honest about fiendish means to a proper end game that we all respect the end game. Because we respect the end game so much, right? A black man that got his own, that what happens is that we start to respect the honesty of that horrendous path that is taken. Well, now it's bitten the whole country in the ass, though. And that is the principle that I've always written against, you know what I mean? And in this plus lesson is just making me think of other shit that has nothing to do with this plus lesson. But the transition, when I talk about the transition from work to insight, that hell that we go through is something that we prepare. So everything that you're seeing today, and I got into this whole Trump thing again, because it's just a good case study, you know what I mean? And it's relevant now. Certainly and absolutely, it's something to look at, you know? It's something to look at. The honesty of the enemy is not endeared. Do not let it over endear you. You know what I mean? Or even write that shit down. You know, don't let the honesty over endear you to your enemy. Yeah, you know what I mean? Yeah, this isn't a kung fu movie though, where like you're gonna fight the guy and you both have like a good cup of tea and stuff. Because for all those movies that they you know honorably have the tea, there's also other kung fu movies that while he's having the tea, it's either poison or they got somebody you know knifing him in the back. You know what I mean? Like Chinese super ninjas. You know what I mean? And that evil woman. You know what I mean? That was playing a flute, but a dart came out. You know what I'm saying? Now watch out. Watch out. Right? Wise you said, 29. What is done or not done will be brought into existence. For the reward is life, and our 11 ways is life. The ways is life. That is how you will be too seen and heard, and how successful you are in all your undertakings. Boy, you know what? That wise you. That should be an entire essay. You need to elongate that, stretch it out, and make that into a whole, like at least a couple of paragraphs, because it's got a lot of stuff in there. You see, that's how plus lesson about a philosophical plus lesson comes into existence. It's about when you speak that way. You know what I'm saying? And I mean that with all praises due and compliments to that. You know, because here's the things you have to expound on. Why is it things not done included in this equation that of all that is brought into existence? I get it. I can explain it, but it's not my build. You know, I would do it differently no matter what. I'd say something different. But that's a heavy philosophical concept, right? The reward is life. Why is life even a reward? How is it a reward? In our way, knowledge, ways is life, right? So the knowledge is the way of life, and that is how you will be seen and heard and successful in all your undertakings. So you put that wisdom build degree, the wisdom born degree up in there too in the language. That's heavy, man. That is evilly good what you just did there, and it's very heavy. That definitely, I'm giving you the assignment that has to be more paragraphs and not here. That is some work to do on the side because you got something there. See, these are the type of things that develop the God's understanding. And when he goes out there, he has something special to share that other people don't have. That's because he's been thinking about the interlocking reality of life, of his reality, of the degrees he's learning. That's good work, Wise You. Right? That's good work there. All right, so going through this plus lesson. All right, so in the late 2000s, early 2000 teens, I was teaching class by a yearly theme. I was trying that. My attendance was never consistent, and so it was hard to keep the students to that. You know what I mean? So I couldn't continue to do it like that. But this is why it reads that way. So I said the premise was this series of lecture notes are to reinforce the year's theme that is being focused on, understanding. The prior year, the thematic focus was on the ideal of work, right? So I went work, and then this year would be, that's how I did it. 2010 was work. 2011 was understanding. In engaging in particular work willfully, one will develop an awareness of self. One will see the conflict of the desire for righteousness and the actual reality of one's virtue in real terms, right? Isn't this similar to what you were asking, Saladin? You know what I mean? Look what I just said here. The conflict of the desire for righteousness and the actual reality of one's virtue in real terms. This is the frustration. It doesn't always play out the way that you would expect it to. It begins with BAT, the build awareness square, right? The things that you check and all that, right? I've had that for years. Studying how one eats, trains, reads, writes, and shares. Learning of oneself, one may take note of what they are studying. And I referenced another plus lesson, justice curriculum. Now ready to begin working on developing understanding. The work year ended with the justice build. Remember that I wrote it that year, the 2010. A set of major concepts to help the approach in seeing one's understanding in supreme math, alphabet, 120 lessons, and even everything else they encounter worthy of study. Then I put a quote here from Yamamoto Tsunotomo, the one who wrote the Hagakure, The Way of the Samurai, around 1716. He said, "It is bad when one thing becomes, if you saw a cat, if you saw a ghost dog, you'll be familiar. It is bad when one thing becomes two. One should not look for anything else in the way of the samurai. It is the same for anything that is called a way. If one understands things in this manner, he should be able to hear about all ways and be more in accord with his own." And that's the thing, right? With the humility. Being a teacher, you have to listen to other people first. You know what I'm saying? Because if anybody is on the 1 to 40, even though I built on it already, this concept of following is very important, though. You know what I mean? So that you don't be a follower, you also have to know that you may be leading people incorrectly. And leading people incorrectly is also not listening to the ways that they have. You never know that the way of life that they have isn't yours. You may not see it as right and exact. You may be able to prove it isn't right or correct, but it doesn't mean that it isn't right for them. You know what I mean? Just like when the Father sent people to the mosque. You know what I mean? And sometimes, and this is why it's important that the variety of literature that I have you all read is for that purpose, though, so that you start to read things that are broad, get ideas that are different. You know what I mean? So the first aspect of this, looking at things from understanding, transitioning from work, wisdom to insight, understanding, is first logic, right? And a lot of these plus lessons are really just cues, things to look at, things to look better. So, and some of these things I may have already taught them to you separately. The first is logic. There must be a scientific reasoning that one develops that identifies and eradicates the use of preconceived beliefs and unproven ideas. Okay. Logic is a science that deals with the principles and criteria of validity of inference and demonstration. The truth is that mathematics is that. You know what I mean? So the first note here, right? I say criteria equation is what I'm always saying, is the making of a list that must be proven to prove the said idea. A lot of us don't do any of these things. Like we don't say like, listen, what is it that we're trying to prove though? Well, if we think this is true, what should be true in this? You know, and make that list, right? And I said, I gave the example, the homework assignment that I've been giving you all, the criteria, the creator criteria, listing any and all requisites, necessary things the creator must prove to be in order to be called the creator. They include supreme biochemistry composition, manipulative ability, and or housing all the elements of the universe, right? So ability to manipulate the universe at will, right? Right? Creation itself, right? And of course, housing or having the ability, having all the elements of the universe. Sort of master of the universal language that details all creation, like supreme math. Why is it supreme math, etc. Master of time and space and all the realms, etc. Right? And give examples. Then the other thing is proper variables. And again, look, these are just two little notes about logic. This is really to burst you into the study. Proper variables. As scientists, and I wrote here, proper variables. As scientists, Gandhi's insight that life, quote, life is constant experiments with truth. That's what he said. That was the name of his book too, his autobiography. Then we must learn to set our variables correctly in order to draw proper insight. Variables are the set of attributes that are set and proven as you study changing realities. If those variables are not correct, like one's variable is the mystery God causes weather, you're shot in the foot there, then one cannot track any new observations with any insight, like the science of breath, the body's absorption and release of moisture as to significantly impacting weather when directed, right? So if you're not judging things around you correctly, then you're always in trouble. And I always tell you the greatest and most important variable that'll help you deal with any interaction and experiment out there is the knowledge of yourself. And the knowledge of yourself is a constant aware. You have to turn your reality of life into a culture and a lifestyle of awareness assessment. You know what I mean? You have to always be assessing what you are, how you are. Okay? This is important. And then, again, these are things that I learned and we're able to manifest mainly because of the martial arts. Every time you're training, you're really assessing every single part of your body. You know, what can you do great? What can't you do great? How will you defend yourself? What are the ways you can defend yourself? You know what I'm saying? What are the things you don't have? You know, like I think it was, one of the best examples is Jackie Chan always talks about how all the injuries he has and how he can't do certain things. But because he can't do certain things because of all the injuries, he devises ways to adapt if he's in those situations. And like, for example, because of the injuries he's had, he can't really jump straight up. And if you ever watch his movies, he's usually jumping up things sideways, right? And, side to side, like that, you know what I mean? And they choreograph it that way. So it's like there has to be a constant assessment of where you are and how you deal with things. And this also has to do with the honesty of self, right? Okay. All right. Kareem says, Astrophysics for People in a Hurry is a good book. I have it. It's a small book, but not so much a quick read that Brother DeGrasse teaches raw. Okay. Indeed. It was a quick read for me because I had read so many other books about the subject, you know what I mean? And finding that. But if you're new to it, it's really a great primer book, you know what I mean? And details things very concisely, you know? And all things Neil deGrasse Tyson are good. Neil deGrasse Tyson's only technical flaw is that he thinks Europeans created everything, like they invented everything, and anyway, right? So now that we have the system, because supreme mathematics is that system of logic that we're using, to get at all of these things. Then we have the approach, right? So now then we go to the approach. And the approach is really the crux of this lesson here. You know what I mean? Right? Because I'm trying to get you into that. The approach is the work we do to truly see ourselves build the way. Boy, my grammar sucked here. The work we do to truly see ourselves build the way itself. It builds the way that we encounter any and all things. Okay. I write very concentrated, so if I make an error, it ruins a lot. A lot of times, it ruins the whole sentence. I'll have to fix that. That little thing. The first thing in the approach is the intention, the immediate nature that one surfaces upon all encountered ideas and observations. A few major ideals of intention are listed below, but they are all united in the one intention, that are understanding, developed with the intention of building the best part, the babies. Okay, this is what I was telling you, and this is like really major, like so major. Oh my God. Humility, the ability to gauge one's level or state of being properly. This allows one a yin space, right? A more receptive space that is the opportunity to be the perfect student. The perfect student is willing to be wrong at each and every presentation of new and proven knowledge. Okay. 2, sincerity. It is said to be an honesty of mind and a freedom from hypocrisy. This is what is missing from the majority of those that know and those that cannot learn. To be sincere is to let go of like and dislike and willingly search what is true and right through the strictest study of self in all things. In that case, though, the like and dislike is discarded by acknowledging that it's there. Acknowledge that like and dislike is there. You still will like things, you still will dislike things, but acknowledge that it is there, right? And then you can acknowledge if it is impacting negatively or positively, right? As one shares, then one will then only share what one truly thinks will aid others and not for their own aggrandizement, like the increasing of one's pride and vanity. And trust me, you may be doing this by accident, right? Self-elevate, peace, God. Peace to the God. Real hip hop, 216, peace. Virtue, the accumulation of righteous deeds. These cannot be counted. When one applies the build awareness square plus lesson exercise and studies their sharing, they are not to count their worth, they are to judge the development of their sharings. Okay. I think this is my opinion, my thought. I don't bear witness to the concept of counting the things that you do for other people. Okay, it'll only lead you down a negative road. If you're truly sharing, though, people you share with will never give you anything. If you talk about like a majority game, okay, if the truth is that out of the hundreds that I've taught, maybe a small handful have given back. And I find that astronomical. You know what I mean? And it's really, it's really an honor. You know what I mean? But when you start to count the things that you have shared, then you're not really doing it properly. You're looking at absolutely Real Hip Hop 216. You can definitely throw that. Once I finish this plus lesson, we'll continue with that, unless anybody has more questions about this. Right? It's heavy what I'm saying. That's why I will email you the plus lesson when if you email me and want it, right? But virtue, the accumulation of righteous deeds. You should be judging yourself to see if you are being sincerely virtuous, if you are being virtuous. But if you're gauging your virtue as far as an amount of things, then you are missing the point. Okay. Now, principles. Now we're on to the next concept. Principles. The proper lens of righteousness. A sense of the nature and subsequent way that promotes life is based on developing one's principles. The ancients, before they received the facts of knowledge of self and or discovered them, studied themselves closely and the ideals of sincerity, virtue, honor, countless ideals, morals, and ethical principles. We must study these ideas, develop them as crucial to our nature, and develop insight that promotes their natural living in this hellish society. Mastery of applying principles to the devilish society is the highest form of political education. Okay? Refer to the 3 perfect principles by Sunez. Okay? Let's see what I said here. I haven't taught that plus lesson in a while. It's a very short plus lesson concept. But the 3 perfect principles is something I taught. It's 1 is originality, and originality is creativity and content united. 2 is honor. The living word is bond. And 3 is full uprightness, meaning one's utmost understanding revealed in any and all of one's manners and ways. That last one seems easy, but it's not. A lot of people hide the worth of themselves. You know, they don't want to share. They don't, or they show a false level of development in their nature. You know what I mean? But yeah, that's my 3 perfect principles. I don't know if I ever wrote a particular plus lesson for it, but it is a particular build that I have. This is the next thing. Form the question, not the answer. Okay? The great scientist scholar does not fit answers to problems, but builds new questions, answering old ones along the way. To do otherwise makes supreme math a mere numerology. Note that this absolutely does not include a question with an answer you are aware of. That is just reinforcement. Note that this absolutely does not include a question with an answer you are aware of. That is just reinforcement. Some people just want to answer questions that they already know. Okay? And again, a lot of this stuff is familiar because these are understandings of mind and things that have become part of the classroom. I just articulated them in this piece here years ago. And as you could tell, I've been teaching these things for a long time. Okay? The next one, and this is all under the banner of the approach. Resource-oriented building versus understanding-based building. To merely gain success, one need only study all things, looking for the most advantageous resources available. Once identified, acquire them, utilize them, discard them, and or hand them off. This is the pathway to success. The mere traits of amplified survival, resource-oriented building are not the ideals that are shared here. Okay? It isn't just to get things, use them, and discard them. We must search for the deeper story in all things. We must look beyond survival's confines if we are to gain anything beyond it that can truly be titled a thriving, fulfilling, righteous life. We must make our building decisions based on principled understanding, not a clever reworking of unlike conquering. To see the deeper understanding is to deal with mastery, 5%, over conquering, the 10%. That's the 10% nature, and let go of submission. That is the nature of the 85. Okay, so these are real heavy though. So I just want you to hear them and get these ideas, how they unify to something. Things that I may have told you in answer to certain things, along with other things that I've added on since then. So now there's a couple of exercises that go in here. Let me just read these off. This exercise, developing concepts. A concept is a generalized idea formed of particular instances. The uniting of ideas, new with old, that creates a building world in the mind, literally, is by the identification of concepts. The identifying of concepts must begin with the grouping of seen principles, ethics, and the morals. Once those are made into concepts, one can begin to see the concepts that the works of history and daily life present to us. Example, some concepts in the 1 to 10. Leadership, first degree. Black man is God of the universe, thus leader of all. Balance, 10th degree. The stated religions suggesting the mysterious paths of the inner world, Buddhism, and the outer world, Christianity. That's my understanding, but works here to check. Illusion, 3rd and 4th degrees. The population figures, I'm just using the 1 to 10 here, mind you. The population figures reveal that the North American wilderness, overpopulated by colored people, is just the opposite the entire world over. Okay? The North American reality is an illusion of numbers. Okay? Because it isn't like that the world over. So see, we have concepts, leadership, balance, illusion. Contrast, the 1st and 2nd, 3rd and 4th, 9th and 10th degrees in the 1 to 10. God and devil, original and colored populations, and Islam versus other religions. The detail of the true is given context by contrasting it with the false and corrupt. Okay. And again, that's very Eastern, right? That's mainly one of the jewels of the Tao Te Ching. Take any set of lessons or readings and make a list of concepts and build on them in your journals. Bring your ideas or the ones you desire to test to the classroom. All right. That's for you all. Give you any assignments. All right. Preliminary forums to build understanding. Peace Course classroom. In the greatest environment of learning, there is no allegiance to any said way. When this is present, we become mere vessels working to turn ourselves in the right direction of proposed salvation. In other words, don't believe things said. This is a place to challenge ideas and to bring things that you want to learn. And also your journals, scholarly notation. And of course, I wrote a plus lesson about scholarly notation. Okay. So that was a heavy lesson though, but it adds up into trying to give you a targeted way to get to understanding. Okay. Right. All right. So, and we have up to 16. If you write down how you see today's mathematics, that's fine. We'll do that too. Okay. That's what we are doing. Okay, I read that whole thing. That was a lot of shit. I know somebody got a question about it. Or what the was that about? Again, any questions, please ask. Okay, please ask. Okay. Okay, I miss Kareem said, indeed, Degrassi appeals more to Europeans, but what has made him famous is his method of teaching. He's known for making complex topics easy to understand. He seeks to give you an understanding where you don't need him anymore. Oh, that's very true. Yeah, which is really the greatest type of teacher, right? One that prepares you to go on in your study. Okay, in that particular part, I was saying the nature of the 5% is to master things. The nature of the 10% is to conquer things. The nature of the 85 is to what? Submit. Okay, that means that when the 10% take over things and try to be the owners, they destroy what once was there. When we master things, so we own what we make by what? Letting it become and be what it was born to be, what we had made it. Right? Anyway, that's that concept there. Okay. This particular plus lesson has a lot of ideas that I have taught over the years. Okay. So it is very heavy. You know what I'm saying? And it's funny, it's funny because I haven't taught the 3 perfect principles in years, you know. And I still see it. I still see it. Right? So hooray for me. What I thought was my understanding still, I can say is still an understanding. Medallion, I have no idea where you get this medallion. This medallion is old. Muchi, what happened with the toothpick? You know what? I just forgot to put a toothpick in my mouth. You know what I mean? And now that you remind me, I might have to. Right? Maybe we can do that. Because it's always fun to have a toothpick now. You know? Nice, you know, nice minty, toothpick. You know what I mean? All right. As I sit back and wait for everybody to say something, right? But uh no, seriously though. Did anybody have any questions about anything? Um yeah, I always have a toothpick in my mouth and I just enjoy it. I actually got that from the God Omnipotent. He got me into that. But oh, the toothpick? It's like a mint toothpick. It tastes great. You know what I mean? It's very refreshing. But now that we always have to wear a mask and everything, I can't, like, what am I gonna do? Poke my mask? You know what I mean? Yeah, some of the stuff here because yeah, if we were in the classroom, no, yeah, like again, we have the advantage that this is online and stuff like that, so we go back. You know what I mean? Right? Yeah. So yeah, but yeah, even still, right? The toothpick, it's badass, right? That means I don't, it means I don't respect authority. You know what I mean? Right? Something like that, right? I don't know. I don't know. But for those that email me, I will send you that thing. Um, if you want to be swift with ideas, you got to write in your journals. You got to put your ideas down. You've got to see how stupid your ideas sound. You've got to see how you've got to develop it. You've got to, have a place where you say, "Wow, I really don't get it." You know what I'm saying? Um, and this is what I do. You know how many books I read, and then I go back to write notes on them, and then I'm like, I read this book, I really don't get it like that, or the amount of things in this book I didn't get enough of, So it lets me know, like, yo, I have more to study better. You know what I'm saying? So all this counts. All this counts. It's all important. You know what I mean? It's all important, right? All very important. You know? So, I'm just curious though, is anyone intending to vote? Right? Is anyone intending to vote? That's all I see on my damn timeline, in the social media, people talking about it and everything. You know, Immortal Technique, who's, you know, you, most people can only be as militant as him, He actually sees voting as useful, you know what I mean? That'll let you know a lot. Um, Everywhere in the world, this is a fact, this isn't a thing. Everywhere in the world, um, voting is something that is manipulated. Voting is something that they try to suppress, oppress, defy, but also also desire its legitimization. You know what I mean? So in the societies we have today, that they are so large, there is very little way for such large populations to interact because we don't have like small little states. They're either United States or they're larger provinces that become countries. So the only way to, how do you get the people's all to advocate something or to accept something? You see, it's really important. It's really important. You know what I mean? And that's why voting is a in general is an important concept, and that's why last week I was building it. It's an institution. You know what I mean? And like I said, if you decide to vote, right? If you decide to vote, do it for the experience of it, to look at it. Also, do it because you should. If you do it, do the knowledge on everything you would vote for. You know, it's not just the president and stuff. You know what I mean? You should know all these people. You know what I'm saying? You should know the people that are working in your district and all these kind of things and everything. And even if the candidates were ideal, they would disagree with something. Man, we don't even agree with all the gods that build at Parliament. So how the hell do we expect a candidate to agree with? You know what I mean? Right? How would you? Right? It's possible. Right? Real Hip Hop 216 said, today's math of wisdom born. When you acknowledge 120 lessons and have it memorized, your wisdom is renewed to help you understand your cipher. Okay. All right. Now with me, anybody that quotes 120 with me wouldn't just be quoting the 120. Right? They will be quoting lessons, but they'll also be giving me their developing understanding. I need to hear all of the things that you have to say about it. You know what I mean? To show that there's a developing understanding, like you're on a good road. You know, you may not know everything. Obviously, it doesn't make any sense that you would, but you're on a road there, right? And Jarrell, you voted reluctantly. Okay. Yeah, I get it. Right. But understand it's a tool. You know what I'm saying? Understand it's a tool. And we could decide to use a tool, not to use a tool, but it's still a tool. You know what I'm saying? And if we were to run, right, we took over. We make her the owner. We took over. If voting is no good, then how would we get the people? Right? So still voting is an institution to get the concepts of the people. I voted 120 lessons. Here we go. Real Hip Hop 216 always has to flip it. I just cash it in. Right? Can we cash it in early, right? But no, seriously, you'd be funny with this shit. I voted 120 lessons. That is some religious 5% of shit. Religious 5%. Say, you know what I mean? Listen, when Obama became president, a lot of the gods was building like that was it. This is important for the gods too, and da da da. And I was like, I was rolling my eyes and shit like that. But I get it. I get it. You know what I mean? I get it. Right? I think sometimes we expect too much out of elected officials too. You know what I'm saying? If that was the case, the Father wouldn't work with anybody. You know what I'm saying? Not that's one of the things that when no, I'm just messing with you. I'm just messing with you. Not being religious. I'm just messing with you. But the if we went and looked at it, and we looked at, like, say, like, did the Father look at the platforms of John Lindsay and look to see? I agree with everything. You know what I mean? Everything he says, like, that's impossible. You know what I'm saying? It's impossible. You know. Muchi. So the toothpick works like a little rock that the Zen masters keep in their mouth while meditating. Maybe. You know what I mean? Could be. Could be. Definitely keeps me. One of the things that could keep me Zen. You know what I mean? Right? All right. All right. Let me write that down so that way I could put that in the notes. That yeah, I had a plus lesson I was going to build on. I put the wrong one in the notes. That's not the one I built on. As the year comes to a close, because that's when I like to teach that one. I'm going to teach one about interactive planning, because as we start to build a new year and everything. Don't tell me about the Asiatic calendar shit, okay? Ain't nobody living off the Asiatic calendar. That's a calendar of events, you know? Don't get mad when I don't start the year in with the first flower in April. You know what I mean? Did you plan that? Right? Well, Real Hip Hop 216, you are late. As a man thinking this is the first book. How are you in this class so long, though? You haven't read that book yet. All right? Come on. All right? Come on. Gotta catch up. I need you all to catch up, because then the things that I could share with you, I cannot share with you if you do not catch up. Right? And listen, my working theory is that you digital students can be as quality as those students that COVID has blocked from coming here regularly, because they really come very infrequently. You know what I mean? Right? The truth is that people are not really traveling unless they really, really have to. Right? Okay. Let's see. Oh, okay. I've been catching the archives while been going through Love Hella Right God. Okay. Understood. You will have my email and stuff like that. So if you need to build on something, or you want to ask a question or something like that, or if you're going through Love Hella Right though, that is not exactly you see that it's your making, then I can add on with you. You know what I'm saying? Like if you need some advice or anything like that, okay? Very few stories that I have not heard. Muchi, what did you mean when you said spell mathematics with an I? Did I say that? Spell mathematics with an I? Oh no, it wasn't mathematics. Cipher. This I meant this. Cipher as opposed to incorrect. That I just meant spell. The words in mathematics as they are. Just a stickler thing. You know what I'm saying? Hell, and it's a stickler thing because if some of the older gods see that, they'll lose their shit. Do you want the older gods to lose their shit? Right? I've never seen a set of 120 have mathematics with Y, cipher with Y. Okay. And technically, that's not the way the word's spelled. Okay. And it's all, also too, so that way you don't get into, if you get into the cleverness, the hip hop cleverness of misspelling things, you could fall victim because what happens is that you get to words like understanding and you might go overstanding or and things like that, which is really like an abusive thing from Nubians that don't know shit about it, and it really originates with the rosters. They're the ones that first started saying overstand, you know what I mean? And they had no idea about this stuff. Yeah, I've never seen Supreme Mathematics spell cipher with a Y. Okay. Now that we got cipher right. All right, so we have a half hour left. I would like it to take it in the direction that you all would like to have it. Whatever it is that you want me to build on. You know what I mean? Okay, I'm fixing up the stuff. Hey, don't forget to see, let me get the link to go to the 5percentmedia.com page. I'm still writing columns for every class session that I teach, and like last week's, it certainly was directly inspired by what happened in the class. Oh yeah, no problem, no problem. One of the most intriguing degrees in the supreme alphabet is the 12th letter L. It's a, for L, it says love, hell, or right. So it's like three words, right? And it was always taught to us that it's a process, right? And this process is like a succession of things. So it's knowledge, wisdom, all being born to understanding. So we get a lot of the clues of each. Email me, realhiphop216, because I would love anyone to write for it. You know what I mean? When you're ready, or don't wait too long. Though most of you are really ready now. If you want to write something, you usually are already ready, right? Take my advice on that. Okay. If you want to write something, you usually are already ready to write it. Okay. Dive right in. Right? Pen first. But when we deal with love, hell, or right, though, it's the idea of you have to have love to go through hell to come out right. That's the basic, right? You have to have that knowledge to get through what? To actually wisdom it, so you come to an understanding. However, one of the misconceptions about this concept is that it leads people to justify that hell is something that is imposed upon you. It is something you go through, but it doesn't mean that it's not something that you have imposed on yourself. And the way I see it is that hell is something that we have imposed on ourselves. It is something that we create. It is the work. So I see love as the intent that we have in all situations. Okay. We bring a certain love. It's part of the nature. It cannot be eradicated. It only can be fomented. And we go through hell. We go through certain work that we have devised indirectly or directly to develop ourselves. And when we actually complete that work, we come out righter, right? A greater righteousness, love, hell, or right. And it could be simple. It could be as simple as the concept of just lifting weights is what I always end up saying. As simple as someone saying, "I need to build more muscle," and that is the intention, and he puts that intention into the work that he's going to do, and lifts more weights, gets stronger, right? Which is right. All of us should be doing. Right? Speaking of weights, right? All right. All right. He Kareem says, I always see God. I always said God. I see 12. I love Hillary and 26 zigzag zig as one and the same. Very interesting. They're not doubled like 12, 24. they don't born the same thing, right? You know, but they're tri-lettered, they're tri-worded, in that sense, right? So they definitely have some kind of they're more like correlated. They're correlated, you know what I mean, in that sense, because it shows a process, you know. So they certainly correlates. Like, I don't know all of them. You have to it's hard to memorize all of them, but the I Ching is written that way since it's also a mathematical system. Um, they have their own correlates. So out of the 64 hexagrams and stuff, they have their own correlates that relate to each other in certain ways. Not always directly, but they go. I would definitely use that word for that. They correlate because they're three worded process. It's a process. So because obviously wisdom, zigzag zig means knowledge, wisdom, understanding, right? Right? It means that wherever you go with knowledge, right, and wherever it takes you, you're gonna get somewhere else, but you're really getting to the same type of place, but it's just a more profound elevation of that original level you were at with that knowledge, right? So that's the key. Okay. All right. So it really, honestly, right now, it really helps me for you to let me know what you don't know, what you're working on, these things like that. You know what I mean? Um, let's see here. Kareem says, "Love is a straight path. Being right is the straight path. When you go through hell, or not being right yourself, you go astray. You zig, but you have to come back to the straight path. The zag is, which is right. I see how you merge them. Very interesting. Very, very interesting. Hmm. Very interesting. Hmm. It's good stuff there. It's good stuff. This shit I'll be thinking about when I'm, like working out and shit. I'll be like, the guy was saying, it's good stuff. I like to see people's minds working like that. You know what I mean? Because when you work like that, these principles end up being seen in real life faster, more evidently, and willingly, more usefully. You know what I'm saying? Right? All right. Absolutely. Absolutely real hip hop to 16. Everything is a challenge, right? And everything is challenges. When you talk about the concepts of karma isn't something like you do something bad and then, somebody does something bad and tomorrow they fall down on the stairs That's not how it works. It's really the consequences of the situations of generations. You know what I mean? And the only mathematics that's correct, right? The only mathematics that's correct in the situation, right? If we think of things like that, right? All of these horrible things, uh, and this concept of karma is that you are the only person that is built to deal with all this. You know what I mean? And if not, though, you'll just end up being an example for someone else. You know, right? Willingly, you'd like to be that tree that falls in the forest that does make a sound. Because remember, it only makes a sound if it's heard. It has to be heard. Sweating, yeah, right. Yeah, I don't run on no treadmill though. Yeah, I don't train in like gyms and shit. I've always had my own home gym. Yes, Matt M. Interesting question. Matt M. Uh, I'd love to ask, who are you? I will answer the question. Um, you know, it's like a rant. Like see how funny I find this though. I'm teaching my class here, right? And I've seen the craziest shit in Harlem. You know what I mean? Like people come here saying all types of crazy shit. You know what I mean? And then they come here, they're on some black shit. And then they see, me, and they're like, "Oh, what the fuck is he doing here, though?" You know what I'm saying? Where's the congas at and shit? Which is the most black shit you could think you would hit. But what I find interesting, right, is no, you won't be sacrificed. Very about 216 is it would never work that way in my classroom. Like somebody wouldn't just walk in and be like, "Yo, Puerto Ricans and Portuguese and Italians half original. If so, they devils too." He just didn't just walk out. You know what I'm saying? Like, but it could work on that like that online. See, the thing about Portuguese, right? Portuguese is a tough one. You know what I'm saying? Here's the thing, right? Italians is a little easier because they're more segregated from south and north. These are populations that have whited themselves out in concept and mentality for so long that they've actually been able to successfully pass as a entire society, right? As an entire group, right? So, like for example, right? Latinos have difficulty passing, even though they try, because their last names and where their cultures come from, people are not just they're not allowing it. So you could be very light skinned and be on some, I could pass, you know what I mean? And even if they see your last name, they wouldn't let you. They would always tell you, well, you come from those people, and shit like that, right? African Americans, they pass all the time. You know what I mean? They pass all the time, and no one says anything. That is something that families deal with, though, and they just don't. You know what I mean? And a lot of these FBA and ADOS people, they don't like to admit that stuff. They think everybody is of a certain shade and shit. I mean, they fucking bugging. You know what I mean? People are out there mad light skinned that are African American, but they pass in, and it's easier because I have a name that is also European, right? The Portuguese and the Italians, so well, the Portuguese, so their type of slavery though wasn't really, it was it wasn't embracing the original people that they enslaved. So there was a separation, unlike say in the Latin American, countries, especially the Latin Caribbean. The Italians are even different story though. They were, I'm saying this negatively. This is like Hall of Fame devil shit. But as a group, they worked hard to pass and they succeeded. So as a population, they're half original. They got some blood in them, though. You can find them if you do research as a general population, but they're half original as a population. individuals, although I've never seen it with a Portuguese, individuals of Southern Italians, though, I do accept if they're original as an individual, if they're willing to trace their history and do the opposite of passing and really go through that and understand that there still would be not really be accepted in the world as totally original. Just like today, you know, my culture is nearly completely African indigenous. That I don't know what the hell I do that's fucking European that people keep talking about. I don't do anything European. You know what I mean? Puerto Ricans don't really do anything European. It is an Afro-Indigenous culture, Afro-Indigenous lifestyle. You know what I'm saying? And so there is no, you know, like it's just basically the fallout from colorism being in the United States of America. But it wouldn't be the same as, let's say, Portuguese or Italians. So if someone says somebody is half original, it doesn't mean that they're devils, okay? So when we say things like that, like say, oh, you're from Europe, you're a devil. You know what I'm saying? No, you're a white person. Okay, you don't get a fancy title just because we're the gods. That's not how it works, though. That's not how I teach it. Like, you know, I see black people. I don't walk down Harlem here and I see black people acting a damn fool. And I say, oh, look, all the gods. You know what I'm saying? The truth is that God is like, it's twofold. It's a reality and a nature. You know what I'm saying? All we could say about all black people, original people, black, brown, yellow, is that they are original and supreme by nature. Supreme physically, supreme mentally, and they have the means to manifest that at any moment. But it doesn't mean that that they automatically God. You know what I mean? The supreme being that is controlling their reality righteously, right? And see what I said, righteously? Because if you look at supreme mathematics, that is the nature of the universe, and the universe conducts itself righteously. No matter how horrible you see this world here, every single bit of devilishment, though, corrupts something else to its death. We're just seeing the timeline slow because we're actually suffering through it, right? So we don't always see that timeline as fast as we would like to, you know. But I think I lost my spot because I see some good comments here. Yeah, so Portuguese Italians are half original because if one of them does have original blood, which they very well absolutely could, they would have to show and prove that they're of the nature and of the genetics and show and prove that. And for me personally, I've taught, you know, Southern Italians that have been able to prove that individually. Even if the entire world doesn't bear witness, though, they know that they are the true and living. They know the science. They know their lineage. They know that they know, and they're not delusional to actually just keep accepting that the darkness in their families and in themselves is just, you know, good tans. You know what I'm saying? Forgot about it, right? But Jarrell said, I've often heard love being described as the highest form of understanding and hell being the penalty for one's ignorance. Is this right and exact? The first part, love is the highest form of understanding, though. Trust me, when someone falls out of love with you, it's because they don't understand shit, right? Boom. There's my quotable for the night. And hell being the penalty for one's ignorance. I don't see it that way because I don't see hell as something imposed on it, you know, and I don't see everything as punishment. You know what I mean? Like, that's something we get out of 120, and it was written for Muslims. You know what I'm saying? The Muslim teachings that we use as lessons to get understanding. Not everything is like punishment. When you make a mistake, it's not like, the sins of hell. If you live like that, then you're living religious like that. You make a mistake, though, there's fallout because it's mathematics. The errors that you make are the building blocks of the lesson. constant elevation at an ever increasing rate. You walk up a ladder, you stumble. It is only to show you how to walk up the next step, right? But yeah, I really hate all that penalty shit. You know what I mean? It's like that's a religious way of thought process. You know, like, oh, I gotta do this right because it'll be penalized. You know what I'm saying? Like, okay, so you're the true and living God because you are your own personal judge and juror. You know, Real Hip Hop 216. There is a lot of hate towards light skinned black people. Also, some people think all of us are not black. The darker seas make these comments. Yeah, they do. Yeah. Just because you're light skinned black person doesn't make you half original. Yeah, that's a load of trash too. That they be saying. Listen, the darker you are, the more hell you will have. Okay, that's a fact. It will not change in the European societies. That is the way they designed it. That's the way we made it. You know what I'm saying? That's the way they made it. Right? That's how it works. That's how the separation, Yakub separation. You think that you make a society say all Jews are black? No, the separation, right? Indeed, a lot of amalgated Moors and Berbers from Portugal. Yeah, of course, mixing everywhere and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Right? You're welcome, Matt M. Welcome, Matt M. And just in case you know, Matt M, the website 5percentmedia.com, my email Sunez97 @gmail if you ever want to ask questions about this knowledge self or anything like that. You know what I mean? 793rd, don't be spooked out. Okay, I won't get spooked out. All right, that's not always true. Yeah, right. It isn't always true. You know what I mean? Shady business, this oppression. Yeah, you know, and I say darker people always have it harder, though. That doesn't always mean that it's always consistent or works that way, right? Okay. You're welcome, Malik. Absolutely. That's part of the classroom. If you're in the classroom, that's part of the work. Um, the thing about it, like, you know, there's a penalty to everything. Like, in other words, there's repercussions to everything, but it's the mentality of how you look at things. Like, if you look at everything like a penalty, then you're actually going to be living as in a kind of like Pavlov's dog kind of way. You know what I mean? Like, you're going this way for this, you go into the direction of what is good because it'll give you the rewards and stuff. You know, that's always been my major problem. Also, with 12 Jewels. You know what I'm saying? I don't. It's not always. It's not always rewards. You know what I'm saying? It's not always rewards. You know? To get into the idea of people into our minds that this is the way we ought to be cannot always be by just punishment. We should know the repercussions of things. All causes have its effects, right? But when we start to live a life of weighing and judging, like whether we will get what type of penalty, you know, we can also manipulate. You know what I'm saying? When the penalty is instituted, you know, right? So I think so. I think so. Real Hip Hop 216. Yeah, yeah. And remember the karma concepts, though. That's a karma. The karma that people talk about is usually a westernized version of the concept. You know, karma just really means the reality that we have, that we are born into. You know, really. and everything that has been done up to the point. You know what I'm saying? Right? Not being born with billions of dollars in the bank. It's karma. It's not good or bad. It could have been great choices, but it's karma. That's really the Eastern concept of it. Not all of this, like, you know, yeah, I was an asshole. You know, I closed the elevator. You know, and then I fell down the stairs. You know, no, that's not karma though. That's some cool shit though. You know, it happens like on cue, and you know, you're like fuck him, but you know, like it doesn't work, right? So unless there's any pressing questions though, we only got like 3 minutes left though. So make sure that you email me. I want to go probably next week. I'll think about going into some other degrees. Maybe I'll go through particular degrees each time, you know, like select ideas and really show you what that is, making concepts of the degrees and really take them through it. But also, you know, expanding on some of the difficult parts. But your feedback to what was difficult, what was easy will help. And if you email me and you get the plus lessons that I was teaching that I taught today, and then you could go through it, see what you really understood and what you didn't. You know what I mean? People can learn from anybody, E.B. Sanchez, but can an earth learn from a God that is not her God? Yeah, I've taught many earths. I've taught many earths, many women. You know, I just teach. I teach what I know. I teach everybody, right? So, you know what I mean? It is what it is. Right? So, based on the actual proof of my experience, I can say yes, an earth can learn from a God that is not her God. You know what I'm saying? Um, I don't know why the hell they're not learning from their God or what they think they should be learning from their God. All I know is that what I got to teach, I could teach it. It don't matter who the hell's learning it, right? So that's pretty much it, right? But earths cannot teach gods, right? I don't know what an earth could teach a god though, because they can't teach. They can't really, you know, they can't really teach a lot of the stuff. You know what I mean? You know, like how they gonna teach God how to be God? You know what I mean? This, you know, and this on a technical level, this comes with such a long oral history. There's certain aspects they wouldn't even know. You know what I'm saying? They wouldn't even know. I don't care if even this includes even the Earths that were even, you know, before me and were found early founders and stuff. You know what I'm saying? Real hip hop 216, man. I'm not even reading that comment. It's true though. It's true. Evie Sanchez, would you building with her instead of being her enlightener? Man, enlightener is a term that enlightener is a term. If anybody calls me their enlightener, it's of endearment. You know what I'm saying? I could teach somebody the entire 120 and what it means, and if they don't call me their enlightener, though, I don't give a damn. You know what I'm saying? It really isn't. If somebody calls me that, it's, you know, it means something, you know, in my heart. You know what I mean? Like whatever. But if there are countless people that have had 120, and I've taught them what 120 actually means and the history behind it. You know what I mean? So technically, like I'm a lot of people's, you know, I'm the enlightener's enlightener, the MC's MC. You know what I'm saying? It is what it is. You know what I'm saying? Just like, and let me tell you, just like Dark Kim is doing now, like, and has been doing way longer than me. You know what I'm saying? That's just the way it is, though. You know, not everybody gets 120 from the person that teaches them everything that they need to know. You know what I mean? And I'm here to teach, though. I'm not here to take a title in a person's life. Okay, I'm here to teach, though. All right, I already have enough titles. You know what I'm saying? I even got names that have been given to me. I've been given different names. You know what I'm saying? That I don't, I don't need to be. You know what I'm saying? I just need to come here and teach what I know. If you want these materials, teach what you know. Okay. And let me tell you something. Let me tell you the glory. Since people don't understand things unless they see a glory. I've been teaching here for 20 years though. Okay. Before I was teaching, there's a lot of things that I taught that now is basic knowledge. You know what I'm saying? And you could say anything. Ideas about melanin being manifest through all the original people. Just general spick knowledge. You know what I mean? That the history of Puerto Ricans, the reality of us, all that kind of stuff in a very cogent way that could be described to everybody. A lot of the pedagogy that I brought to this nation. A lot of stuff. You know what I mean? When I came here, certain people that were older, not elders, were actually teaching that the brown and yellow was made during the grafting process, which means that they're not original, but like, and even worse than devil, because they're like byproducts. You know what I'm saying? They're like byproducts of the drug that would get thrown out. So I'm like, all right, that's the shit, the dumb shit that you just said. Teaching has its own rewards. You know what I'm saying? Right. Right. GSK and E.B.L. What's the GSK? I forgot what the GSK is, but the E.B.L, right? The ego-based learning. Yeah, I made that up today. Yeah, go figure. Right. Right. If a God is not suitable, then you can build with your brothers and sisters. Yeah, I mean, it sounds funny though. He's saying that God not suitable. You know what I'm saying? Look, I was talking about something, right? And E.B. Sanchez, I don't even know. I can't tell. I don't know if you're male or female. You know what I'm saying? These are women's questions, so they questions about women. So there could be more. I'm assuming you might be a woman. Not everybody is great at teaching. You know what I'm saying? And so sometimes we put a lot of pressure on whether they have to teach everyone that they know and stuff. You know what I mean? It doesn't always work that way. Sometimes, let's say a woman gets this knowledge because their man had it and he's the God, she becomes the earth. But there's a lot of things he can't teach because he just doesn't teach it very well. You know what I'm saying? It's a lot of stuff. So it doesn't, to me, it doesn't say anything bad about that person initially. It's only if he's trying not to help her learn as much as she can, you know what I mean, or is willing to learn. So that's really the thing, right? And you say, so the student chooses the teacher correct, but cannot have too many right. Here's what I think, as far as a woman, because women, and I think that this nation, men in general, us as gods, I don't think in general, I'm going to say that we're all mature enough. I'm going to go out there and say I'm mature enough. I have the proof of it. But I think this. I think women have to learn from anyone, but they can't always learn everywhere. Okay? That's just the way life is. All of that. They just need to learn to protect themselves and all that kind of stuff, right? They're not always going to learn everywhere. Just like the origins of this knowledge were learned in the street, so you're not going to always learn it. You cannot learn it like the gods because the gods learned it in the street. You know, I'm not a criminal. I'm not a criminal, but getting this knowledge itself, I was already prepared because I had to do so much street things. I had to be in the street so much just to do what I do in hip hop. So to get this knowledge was very comfortable. I was very comfortable being in the street. You know, how many people are comfortable in the street without being a criminal? You know what I'm saying? Or without having the wherewithal of having been a criminal. You know what I mean? It's not too many with that pedigree. You take women though, they're not used to being in that street like that. So they wouldn't learn a lot of things like that. They need different forms. And this nation hasn't always developed the forms completely. You know? What I teach here, this is that form. You know what I'm saying? In the streets, Real Hip Hop 216. You're in Real Hip Hop 216. Where are we doing all this though? You think that most of the stuff that you're learning from me was learned here? I learned it here with my enlightener, and then I learned it in the street, and then I had to live it in the street. I had to go test it. I had to find shit. I had to actually come here to find it. You know what I'm saying? This wasn't even a neighborhood I ever even been in when I came in here. You know? This is street shit. This is street knowledge. No matter what anybody says. You're not getting this in a college. Even though most of us could format it and teach it in a college, right? Yeah, I know you first said this is really old. Yeah. Najee, I bought this from Najee around 1990, 99. Yeah, when I first got knowledge. If he's still learning. Okay. Okay, you're female. Thank you, E.B. Okay. You're a newborn, but I followed your channel for a while. Oh, that's peace. That's peace. Correct. Okay. That's peace. Was I outside doing something? No, listen. Look at the things I told you I learned. I got this knowledge of self, and in 1 year later, I'm teaching a class at this school. Do you realize how many things I had to do in that 1 year? How much time I had to spend with the gods in the street, out in the streets, in different boroughs? How many places I had to go? How much time I spent around this school and everywhere else? It's a long time. And I did that for years. And I just told you, I learned Kung Fu with the gods. So like the amount of things I was doing was all street oriented. It was in the street. Doesn't mean it's criminal. It means it's in the street. You know what I'm saying? Would I have to go to the school, Allah's garden? I don't know where you're at, Evie. So, you know, gauging a teacher. You want to see if somebody knows them. That's the easiest way. You know what I mean? Like you're not gonna. Let's say I'm just saying, for example, right? Let's say you don't ask me anything about what I see, this, that. You know, like you grill them, right? What do you know? Who the hell knows me? There's your answer. You know what I'm saying? And then I try to make it easy because I have a whole curriculum. I give all these things. I give you the chance to develop. So there's ways of gauging. You know what I mean? But if you find the school, that's where you first start, right? I know so many guys are afraid of the streets, scared to be out there, and it comes off and they're teaching their wisdom. Yeah, because they don't really. You don't have to be in the streets. You have to do things for the people. And you'll find your way when you think about what you can do for the people, right? You know what I'm saying? So like, you don't look, like I said, listen, I was already doing hip hop. I was already embedded in hip hop. So I was comfortable being in the street. But let's say if somebody isn't really street, well, they can do community activism, and then they can bring this knowledge wherever they go in that community activism. You know what I mean? That's why I always tell you, like, yo, you think marches are stupid and protests don't work, and they haven't, right? Go, because we're not all living in nirvana, right? Because that's the benchmark for whether a protest works and stuff like that, right? Sometimes we have unrealistic benchmarks, especially the young. But did you ever go to a protest? You know what I'm saying? Did you ever protest police brutality? You know what I'm saying? Did you ever vote? Did you ever, try to work with a politician? To see all these things, to see where you could fit in the community with this knowledge. Like, how will you live in the community with this knowledge? That's what I mean by being on the street. You know what I'm saying? If not hanging out on the corner in the bodega and just beginning, oye, papa, tú sabes esto and just start going about the knowledge. But what about something else? Like maybe you're not really prone to that. So what activity or different community centers or cultural centers that do cultural things, right? Originally called it Lost Street Academy for a reason, right? And if you're in New York, like I said, I'm being honest, I'm right here. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Most women don't, women that I've noticed, they don't always want to learn that though. But when we started to train, because a lot of the earths were trying to get that, you know what I'm saying? But that would be something I definitely, let's say if I said I'll teach you, that is something that you would have to be here and stuff. And there is already a boxing class. I forget the day it is. I think it's Saturday. Um, and they mainly teach the young, but they certainly would teach you, women, and teach you something, you know. And for select students, though, and I say select because I don't always have time and stuff, right? Knowledge Allah says, I think being in the streets is the best way to figure out how to reach the people. That doesn't mean being out there doing dirt, but even for the community actors, you got to get on the ground. That's what I mean now. It's exactly that. Get that good. That's the phrase, get on the ground. You just got to try to find it. That's why I told people, if you never voted, go vote. You know what I mean? See what the people are feel empowered by and stuff like that. I've seen people vote and they were crying after they voted. You know what I'm saying? Because they don't have no other way to feel empowered. They don't have no other way. You know what I'm saying? Sunday, thank you, 793 Sundays. But MGT, I don't think there's any MGT because MGT class would be taught by a woman. So I don't know if there's any MGT class. All I know is that I teach all the human families. So, and that obviously we're close. So if you ever come here on a Thursday night, Evie, I would definitely learn more about what you want to know and build with you from there. You know what I'm saying? And that's what it would be. You know what I'm saying? And whatever situation you're in and things like that, you tell me what situation you're in. The more I learn from you, the more I can teach you what is relevant, what is useful, and what you can do. That's it. We make it as simple as possible because the things I will teach you will be hard, not the circumstance and the frustration of figuring out what is it that, you know what I mean? Spend time figuring out what is it that you want to learn as opposed to figuring out whether you will be taught. You see? And that's what a lot of gods don't understand, and men in general. A lot of women don't even know if they're going to be taught. You see, the sister here is not even thinking about what are the things that she doesn't know and how to find them out. She has to worry about, can I actually even be taught? You see? Right? Probably I know a lot of life. I know a couple of lives. So I don't know if the life you're saying is the one I know. I know a couple of them. So all human families at home and abroad says, why is you? That's right, 196,940,000 right square miles. Water got to use it loose. Okay, why don't you email me? Okay, you could build on it though. You know what I'm saying? You could build on it, right? Right. Because then you gave your concern, right? You gave your concern, right? You don't want to be led in the wrong direction. But if I'm talking about me, I have the proofs, so I don't want to turn like the end of this class into a commercial for, Sunez Allah. You know what I'm saying? I give the materials out to them, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's, they're all out there, right? So that'll work though. So you email me and then you give me a situation, I start to learn, you know what I mean? Right? But for all you brothers out there, this is something to take note of, right? We're always wondering, like, oh, how come these bitches don't know shit, this and that. Women have to figure out though whether they can actually be taught something, let alone what they're going to be taught. You know what I'm saying? What is it that they want to know? I mean, so that they have other concerns, right? And this is the thing about this knowledge of self. You know what I mean? Right. All right. So with that, I'm going to let everybody go. We certainly are past 10 o'clock. We have been live for 3 hours, so that is the length of this though. So you go penalize me for finally logging on to this thing 15 minutes late. You made me stay here longer to get those 3 hours in those. So I appreciate the penalty. Wow, you guys are gangster. So anything, go to the site, email me, whatever it is you want to know, I will answer it. Okay. And if it's about me, do the knowledge, like this. Ask about me, do the knowledge on the internet though, right? There's books, papers everywhere, right? You could be studying Sunez forever. You know what I mean? There's a lot of shit I have out there, right? But with that said, indeed, 790. With that said, I appreciate you all taking the time to actually sit there and watch, you know what I'm saying? As I advocate denim and supply. I've been on that shit lately, denim and supply, right? You know what I mean? They have some nice stuff, right? But with that said, keep building, build me, interact. Until next week. Peace.